Cast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Matt Danley. Thank you guys for joining me again tonight. We've got a couple things we want to talk about. Obviously, tonight there's been a lot of things come up about some moves. The Colts have been, obviously continuing to go after both sides of the line, and Chris Ballard's really shown that he is going to go full force to make sure that those two areas are significantly better than they've been in years past, most definitely. So, again, thank you guys for joining me here on the Colts Cast. Tonight we're presented by Indy Home Pros and Mike Ernest, top sales group in the area, most definitely. So make sure you guys are getting a hold of him. If you have any of your home buying or home selling needs, you can get a hold of him at homeprosindy.com or call Mike at 317-285-9691. So let's get into it real quick. I think that there's a few things we want to get to first, and then we can get into some of the offensive line stuff. We'll get into a couple other things as well. But I kind of wanted to go through this to you because there's been a lot of things thrown around where we've heard people talk about that this is going to be Andrew Luck's top offensive line that he's had so far since he's been in the league. So I wanted to kind of address that, and we'll just kind of go through the process together and kind of try to figure it out for sure. There's no way we can project necessarily 2018, but we can look at the years past and we can kind of decide whether we think that there can be at least competitive with some of those groups, if not better, and then maybe try to kind of work out if we feel like they're actually going to be better. So that's something that we can do most definitely. So we'll go through that. But first, let's cut to the news real quick. Most of it is kind of in line, some stuff that you guys have seen on Stampede Blue for sure. But the Colts appear to be in line for a 2019 comp pick for Moncrief. And it's kind of interesting that the way this goes over the cap they keep track of all this stuff. And with the Colts allowing Dante Moncrief kind of to walk, that the Jacksonville Jaguars signed him for $9-10 million, quite a bit. And it looks like the Colts could be getting a fourth rounder for that. So that could be good news. I mean, that's a nice thing. Now, on the other end of that, if Danico Autry, Ryan Grant were to maybe get cut by the team, then the Colts would get 6 rounders for one of those guys. So that's something to think about. I don't think that Danico Autry or Ryan Grant are going to get cut necessarily. I just don't know how big of a role they're going to play coming up in this season. But just keep that in mind. If for some reason the Colts do have some more of an influx of talent over the next couple months, then those could be a couple ways for them to get even more picks as well. Kind of what the show's centered around. We're talking about the Colts offensive line. The Colts did sign former Ravens tackle Austin Howard. This guy has been around the league for a little while. His rookie year, he played 4 games, sat out the next year, I would assume for injury. I'm not going to pretend that we know this guy's career front and back, but the last 4 of his last 6 seasons, he's played in all 16 games and started. But he was ranked somewhere in the middle of the pack from Pro Football Focus. Now I know a lot of people don't put a whole lot of weight behind those PFF grades, but consider this: 36th, and you got 32 teams. So out of 64 starting day one tackles, you've got him really close to right in the middle of the pack. I think that's a pretty good situation for the Colts to be in, and I do think. Most definitely that's probably one of the better areas that they've been in quite some time. So I think that's a good thing for the Colts. Now we're going to go through this. Now, this tackle / offensive line type of competition is going to be pretty interesting as we get into camp, right? You've got Denzel Good, Joe Haig, even LaRaven Clark. He's a guy that has kind of flashed as well. He and Denzel Good both have those like rookie year flashes and just haven't done anything since. So they know that there's some potential there with those guys. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to remain on the team. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to remain viable options for right tackle spot. Now, Denzel Good, in my opinion, has a little bit better chance to stick around on the team just because he's got some versatility. We know that. Joe Haig obviously does as well. But with the signing of Howard, They also let go of guard Isaiah Williams. So that kind of shrinks that position down just a little bit. And all this is playing kind of off of the back of Randall Telfer. The Colts signed him, and he failed his physical. So he's now, Ballard is constantly trying to upgrade this roster. We talk about it. He talks about it quite a bit. So it's interesting to note all of that. And it's interesting to see him actually doing it, right? We've known that he's going to do what he says, and he's going to continue to do that. But it's just interesting. I don't think that any of us really thought that tight end was an issue, but they let go of Vanderlaan to get Telfer in. Now they're 2 tight ends down, basically 1 tight end down. I don't think that makes a big difference. I think the tight end room is in pretty good shape. But I do like, obviously, the way that he has gone after the offensive line. Now, there's another piece to this as well. As they've waived Telfer with that failed physical designation, they signed defensive end Chris McCain. Chris McCain has got some exciting traits to him, guys. He's only like 235, 236. He's not a big guy. I think he is 6'5", though, so he has some height and some length. But you can see some clips on him. And I shared some in an article, I think, on this situation on Stampede Blue, but you can see him fire out. You can see that he's got good speed. He's got good angles to the quarterback. This is kind of a very, I think, an under the radar move for the Colts right here, because this could be something that, he backed up Bosa and, I can't think of his name right now, but they're in LA for the Chargers last year, and he came in and he had 5 sacks. I mean, he didn't play a ton of snaps either. So, I mean, he was very productive, very efficient when he was in the game. So I think that that's something that we should be kind of excited about, especially when we get into camp and start seeing some of these camp battles really start to take place. I mean, look at that defensive end, area there. Who is really going to step up? Is it going to be Terrell Basham? Is Terrell Basham really going to be the guy? I mean, Danico Autry, Simon, what are these guys going to do? Tyquan Lewis, is he going to be mostly inside, or are they going to just kind of use him willy-nilly, kind of however they feel? Kamiko Toure, how does he look in camp? Does he come out as like maybe even a starter in week 1? That would be interesting, right? Then they've got a couple other guys on the periphery, Anthony Johnson and Josh Perry, and now they've got McCain. So this is an interesting group here. He is light for the position, but when you consider that he's almost exclusively a speed rusher, that is definitely something that you can work into your sub packages, and I think is an exciting situation for the Colts going forward, especially when it comes to camp. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm really excited to be honest with you about this offensive line group. Not so much that I have a ton of faith in it, okay? But it is an exciting group, and it is something that we can get used to trying to kind of gauge where they're at. I mean, nobody isn't excited about Quentin Nelson. If you're not excited about Quentin Nelson, as far as what he can actually do for this offensive line, what he can upgrade, how well he is versed in not only his awareness of what's going on around him on the other side of the center, but what he can do is just shut down an interior rusher by himself, and I think that's absolutely important. And if, people still knock on Costanzo quite a bit. He had a pretty good year last year overall. I mean, if you look at the percentages of pass rushers to tackles and how many times tackles win against pass rushers, you've got to think that that's a pretty good sign. And I think that Costanzo was pretty darn good last year as well, despite what a lot of Colts fans constantly want to complain about his play. He gives up the occasional sack. Sometimes he has a bad game, gives up a couple hurries or a hit or something like that. Costanzo's been a pretty damn good asset there at the left tackle position. And if you consider him and Nelson on that left side with Kelly in the middle, that looks nice. I mean, that's a pretty looking group right there. Costanzo is a guy that we've been able to at least trust to be solid. He's always healthy. He's just a guy that can be mostly relied upon. I know that Andrew Luck relies on him, and not only that, but Andrew Luck trusts him to be there. Nelson is going to shore up that left side considerably. He's going to be a guy, like I said, who is not only so aware and focused on what his assignment is, but he is a guy that is always looking for work. If he's back and he sees that there's only a rusher and his guy's dropping into coverage for some crazy reason or something like that, he's looking for work. He's not just dropping back and staring around. He's turning his head and he's got it on a swivel. He's always looking for somebody to hit. That is going to make this left side of this line extremely formidable in the future. And I think that honestly, a lot of people, for some reason, honestly, now I don't complain about national guys too often. I don't complain about guys who, whether they have a team or they don't have a team or just whatever the case may be, or maybe they're a draft guy or just whatever the case may be, but they're constantly trying to tell everybody else what their players are doing, and they just don't pay attention. It's not that they don't try. It's not that they haven't seen a few plays from these guys, but they just don't pay attention. Brian Kelly has gotten zero credit from some of these guys for his rookie year. It just blows my mind. He was one of the top 10, top 15 centers in the league as a rookie. They didn't grade him well last year as far as Pro Football Focus, but I still watched his tape a couple times. I still don't see how he had such a bad year. I don't think he graded out in the top 30, to be quite honest with you, last year. But I still thought he played really damn well when he was healthy. And he didn't get the credit for it. Ryan Kelly is a hell of a center. If you don't think so, then you need to go back and watch his tape, especially because they're just oh, he's always hurt. He was hurt last year, okay? And it was his second year. Can we get over the he's always hurt stuff? People just throw out these qualifiers, and it's so annoying. Look, if you're going to talk about a team or a player on a team, I don't even care who it is. Pay attention, have something to talk about, at least know what you're talking about, or just forget about it, because you're getting into a battle and you just look stupid when you talk about a player and you don't watch them. Don't do it. It's not smart. Don't talk about a player that you haven't watched. There is a lesson for anybody who cares to hear it. Now we are looking to talk about this right side of this offensive line as we go forward. Braden Smith is the draft pick, second round. Jack Newhart comes back, from what I hear, is healthy and looking good. Austin Howard at right tackle, he's going to be there for, at a minimum, the competition. A lot of people think he's the starter. Good, Haig, Clark, all in that competition there. If you want to count Tyreek Burwell, that's fine too. But there's a legitimate competition at right tackle. And I'm here to tell you, there's a legitimate competition at right guard too, guys. This right guard position is not sewn up. I know that Chris Ballard told everybody that Braden Smith was the last starting level guard on the list. And he may have been. He may have been to them and their board. And that's fine. I'm not arguing that even at all, to be quite honest with you. And I think that Braden Smith is a really athletic guy, and he does give them what they want as far as being able to get up the field, getting to the second level. We've talked about that. Second level yards is a big deal. Offensive line yards is nice for running backs. You want them to be able to help create running lanes. You want them to help create yards from the line of scrimmage on. And second level yards are just as important. You want those offensive linemen to be able to get upfield and to be able to get a hat on a hat, let that running back split after about 4 or 5 yards and get another 5 to 10 yards. That's important as well. Braden Smith offers some of that with his athleticism, pulling, getting up to the linebackers up front. Those are all quality things. Those are all good things about Braden Smith. Those are actually, I would say, things that Newhart probably doesn't really offer. Not a lot of it anyways. Newhart is not a uber athletic as far as get out and run, second level pull type guard guy. Newhart is, however, a damn good guard when he's healthy. We've seen him do it. We've seen him play. And if we go into this season, us, the fans, thinking that Braden Smith is automatically the starter, I think that we are really selling Jack Newhart short. He is healthy. Like I said, he's coming in. He got the 1-year deal from Ballard. And now this is a legit competition, guys, at right guard. Smith is the long-term answer. Unquestionable. I don't think that, at least right now, right? He is right now, in Chris Ballard's eyes, the right guard of the future for the Colts. Excuse me. But what are we looking at? we're looking at 2018, and Muhort, guys, we saw him, in his second year, looked really good. His rookie year, he has been hurt a lot. So trying to remember back into which years he was actually healthy is difficult. But we do know that when he was on the field and he was healthy, he was really good. Mm-hmm. Left guard, right guard, didn't matter wherever they played him. There's been talk of him possibly kicking out to right tackle from fans, not anybody, around the team or anything like that. But I don't think that that's necessarily one. Obviously, we've got Austin Howard there to battle that, and that's probably not going to be an opportunity or an option for Muhort. But Muhort was damn good. Muhort was damn good, and he's bully, and he's a grinder, man. Muhort has always been this guy who would go after and just be a mauler, right? He is a powerful dude. He is a guy who can protect well. He's pretty solid in the run game, not great, but at least at the line of scrimmage, he's a good run blocker. So Smith has to do a couple things here. We've seen a lot of film on Smith. He is a good athletic guy. He is some of his knocks. Okay, I'm not going to talk down about him, but some of his knocks have been he's slow to the punch, and that's as far as hitting his hands on the defender as they come, making engaging. He's slow to engage a little bit, kind of engages with his head and his shoulders as opposed to his hands to control. That's not a good thing. That's not what you want from an interior lineman, especially because anytime you do that, that defensive lineman is smacking you in your head or in your shoulder pads, and he's by you. I mean, you want an interior offensive lineman to be able to control at the point of attack, and he has some issues with that. I'm not saying he's terrible or anything like that. Like I said, I'm not even trying to sell him short. I'm just saying those are some of the mannerisms, I guess, as an offensive lineman in the interior that he has issues with. Going on, lots of clearing the throat today. Need a little drink, excuse me. But that's something that Muhort doesn't have. Muhort is quick with his punch. He does have a good situation for him at the point of attack. He's not much of a reacher or anything like that. He doesn't bend over at the shoulders and the back, top of his back or anything like that. And I think that Muhort here, if he stays healthy, like I said, he can't go in here with any nicks and bruises or nothing. He can't have any kind of a soft tissue issue or anything like that. He has to be completely healthy. If he is, guys, Muhort's probably going to start. Okay. Now, does this matter to anybody? Does anybody care? I don't know if they do or not. I think that I don't really know. But I don't think that people can really go into this and just assume that because Ballard said Braden Smith is the last starter quality offensive lineman that we saw on the board, that he's going to start. That's not, I don't think that's what it meant. I don't think that's what Ballard meant in any way, shape, or form. I think he meant he was the last guy that we saw that could start soon. Didn't have to be day one. Maybe they think that they can get him there, but he's going to have to be coached up. The offensive line coach is somebody that a lot of people respect. I mean, he's going to be expected to be one of those guys who can move really well in space. And create, and to be able to pick up blockers and to be able to take linebackers flowing from sideline to sideline. He wants to kick those guys out. And that is what Braden Smith is going to be used for. Ultimately, that's the maybe week 8, year 2 plan between that area for the Colts. That's where they want him by then. Jack Muhort, on the other hand, if he comes in, like I said, if he's healthy, guys, I mean, he's about as stout as you can get from a right guard. There for a while, he was definitely the Colts' best offensive lineman. He just couldn't stay healthy. So I guess that's a really, really long way for me to say that this right guard situation is not sewn up. It is not in the books. Braden Smith is not the day one given starter. And not only that, but I think that really Chris Ballard's mantra of all this competition, he really sells his words short if he doesn't go through with it. What do we know from Chris Ballard? He doesn't BS, right? If he says something, he really follows through, something that we're not really used to. You always hear, the term coach speak or even GM speak or just whatever. We don't get a lot of that from Ballard. We hear it and it sounds like it, but a lot of what Ballard says, and I would venture to say all of it, he backs up and he does it. He said he was going to work about in the trenches, through the draft. He's done that. He's even continued to do it afterwards. He brought in Howard. He's brought in McCain. He's moving some guys around, trying to get some extra bodies in here to really keep this offensive line tight. But now look at this. Let's look at the big picture here. And I guess, you know what? Let's do that here real quick after the break. Going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to look at some of the offensive lines that Andrew Luck has had to work with in the past, 5-6 years that he's actually been throwing the football. And we're going to look at what they've got. We're going to look at some Football Outsiders rankings and statistics so that you guys can understand these. This is kind of interesting. I love what they do for offensive lines here. So we'll be back in just a minute. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. All right, welcome back, guys. All right, we're looking at the offensive line here. A lot of people have gone on and said this Colts offensive line right now is going to be the best that Andrew Luck's had to work behind. I think that that's a fairly not only common, but it's a pretty accurate assumption, I would guess. I think that's it's okay to say that. I'm not trying to dispel anything that people are saying, but we need to look at what he's had in the past. We know that we can sit here and say this offensive line's been terrible, but look, when Peyton Manning was the quarterback in his era, I think that everybody said that then. And the Colts offensive line and the Colts defense, those were two of the things that people constantly complained about and bitched about all the time. Those two were better than anything, as far as I'm concerned, that we've had since 2012 under Chuck Pagano. So let's look at the Colts offensive line. Now look at adjusted line yards. This is interesting. What this basically does is it shows how good the run blocking was from the offensive line. What did the offensive line do for the running back, more or less? Okay. They were 26th in that in 2012. Their power success was obviously power run game. It was 72%. That was number 2 in the league. Pretty good, but they really powered it home. Remember that. They brought in fullbacks, all that good stuff. Their stuff percentage was really bad. They were almost dead last in the league. Getting hit in the backfield is what stuff percentage is. So that's not good. Their second level yards, they were in the top half of the league at 13th. And their open field yards were terrible. There was a clear line there of demarcation almost. Second line yards, and I think second level goes from 5 to 10 yards, and then 10 yards and beyond goes open field rank, and that was 28th again, very near the bottom of the league. And on the other hand, the Colts pass protection, they were ranked 17th in the league, gave up 41 sacks in 2012. So not a great year, but there were some things to work on, or some things that worked well for the Colts in 2012. And obviously Andrew Luck was having an amazing season, and he kind of made the Colts offensive line look better. Let's look at 2013, 15th in adjusted line yards. Okay. 65% power success. That's right dead in the middle of the league there, 15. Right there. Okay. But their stuff percentage was 10th. Okay. Brought that up considerably, which means that they were able to get to the line of scrimmage from the backfield. So the offensive line did at least that for them. Second level rank, they were 19th, and then open field yards, they were 21. Now, if you want to consider that as a whole for that offensive line, that might have been kind of, just very average all the way across. That might have been better than even being that much better at power rank, because look, your power rank, your success, as far as that goes, I mean, where are you going with that? I mean, they didn't have a bunch of open field yards, and they weren't crazy great about that. But I just wonder if it would be better to be very, fairly average, or just below or above average in just everything, or to be really good in that, because I just don't see power success to being all that important, to be quite honest with you. Second and third level, that's where you want all your success. So let's look at their pass protection rank. The Colts were 6th in pass protection rank via Football Outsiders in 2013. Adjusted sack rate was 5.6%. That is sixth best in the league. Only give up 32 sacks that year. Kind of interesting. So 2013 kind of looks like a year that might, we might go ahead and say that was probably the best so far, okay, out of the 2 years. I think we can say that because the pass protection significantly better, obviously makes a lot of difference for the rest of it. Very average in the run game, pretty damn good in pass protection, I guess you could say. It doesn't, see what I mean? We need to go back and think about this stuff, and that's why I did this, because you just don't really think about it. You go back, you try to remember, he's like, oh, they're awful. But were they? I mean, this is what we're going to find out. We're going to find out where they were awful and how good they were in other areas. In 2014, they were 16th, very middle of the pack, again, in adjusted line yards. That's what their offensive line does for the running back, get them to the line of scrimmage. Really terrible in power success. Not that big a deal, I don't think. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe there's more into power success than I guess, but I'm just assuming that means you get at least 3 to 5 yards in a power run formation. Who cares? But stuff percentage, they were back up into the middle of the pack there. Second level yards, 13, middle of the pack. Open field rank, 29th. Terrible, right? That's something you don't want. No long big play, big breakout runs. So that's something that you want from your offense. Looking at their pass protection, look where they're. I mean, this is interesting, guys. I feel like I need to go back and watch the film on this, because I'm a little shocked, to be quite honest with you. I did not look at this specifically for this reason before we got on air. So the Colts were 7th in pass protection in the league in 2014 via Football Outsiders. Adjusted sack rate was 4.8%, and they only give up 29 sacks. 2014. So that, I mean, we're okay. 13 and 14, not really as bad as we thought it was. Did Andrew Luck escaping a lot of the pressure have something to do with that? I think he probably did, especially those 2 years. A lot of comebacks, all that good stuff. I think that probably had something to do with it. Now we get into 2015. This is going to be a different story. I can just tell you ahead of time as we get down to it. Okay, Indianapolis 27th in adjusted line yards. 60% success rate in power. I mean, that's not good either. That's 24th. So 27th, 24th so far. Stuff rank, 24th. Not good. All in the mid to high 20s so far. And then 29th, second level yards, 28th in open field rank. Basically, they had one of the absolute pathetic running games and offensive lines in football. It looks like in the run game part of it in 2015. That's not really a surprise, I guess. I think that 2013, 2014 were a surprise for me. Indianapolis was 16th in protection with a 6.1 adjusted sack rate. Gave up 37 sacks. So definitely going to say that 2015 is not something that we need to consider as far as, one of the better seasons. I think we're looking at 13 and 14 here is probably the two of the better years. So here is something that I do remember from last year, and this will show you guys kind of that the offensive that Frank Gore in 2016 was successful because of the run blocking for the offensive line. The Colts were 2nd in adjusted line yards. Okay, now that does mean something. I mean, the adjusted line yards to me is far more impressive than power success. Okay, because that just doesn't matter to me. Could care less how you're successful. But adjusted line yards were number 2 in the league. That is impressive. That tells you that the offensive line was getting Frank Gore to the line of scrimmage. What he did after that, wasn't so great. So power success was 15th in the league. The Colts were number 1 best team in stuff rank. Okay, that's 2 things right there. Adjusted line yards and stuff rank. That tells you that the offensive line was blocking well for the run. So I think we've got definitely the best run blocking offensive line was 2016 without question here. But the problem that we get into, like I said, Frank Gore, some of the other running backs weren't so good after the line of scrimmage. 28th in second level rank and 32nd dead last in open field rank. The running backs did nothing after the offensive line got them to the line of scrimmage. Now, this is something that may come into effect here as we're talking about the offensive line. Who are those guys that can get to the second level, get those blocks, lay down something? Maybe the offensive line wasn't great in that aspect either, and maybe that's part of it. But typically, if you've got Frank Gore, he's a barrel, right? You know that he's going to get through and he's going to bust in, and he's going to take the second. He's going to find the holes and he's going to squeeze through them as much as he can. Maybe there wasn't a lot of room for him. I don't know, but the Colts were good at getting him to the line of scrimmage, and they were good at not getting him hit behind the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, two things that are impressive, and that's something that you want. Now, the pass protection kind of, hits a real serious slide here. The Colts were 28th in the league in pass protection in 2016, gave up 44 sacks, an adjusted sack rate of 7.6%. So, in one hand, we've got the Colts' best offensive line from 0 to 5 yards in the run game. And then we've got by far the worst pass protecting offensive line for the Colts yet. So 2016, even though it was a solid run blocking year, it is not the year for, overall looking at this. I still think we're looking at 2013 and 14 for that. So let's look at last year. Last year, we know, a lot of people wanted to blame a lot of the struggles on the offensive line. Myself, I put most of the blame on Jacoby Brissett. I think people were too impressed with the little bit that Brissett did. I mean, you can be impressed that he learned the offense and that he had some really nice plays. He was a good downfield passer. He really was. One of the best, in fact, maybe one of top 2 in the league, but even people want to go to his adjusted completion percentage. His completion percentage sucked, and his decision making wasn't great, and he held the ball forever. A lot of people made that an issue with Andrew Luck in 2016 and 2015, and basically his career so far. And there's something to it. But man, Jacoby Brissett just seemed like you could take a nap and wake up and he was still holding the ball. So let's look. 2017 adjusted line yards. Where are the Colts here? 18th in adjusted line yards and second in power rank last year for the Colts. 81%. That's power success. That's pretty impressive again. Not so great on the adjusted line yards, but very, very average. Okay. So again, average in stuff rank, they were stuffed 20% of the time behind the line of scrimmage. Second level and open field rank, again, terrible. 25th and 29th, respectively. Not good. So the running game, not good. Power success is good. Nothing else is good. Everything's bad. I almost went George Bush on you guys there for just a second, but and then you kind of know where everything else is going here. The pass protection was dead last in the NFL, 32nd. 56 sacks. Okay. I mean, Houston gave up 54. Denver gave up 52. Green Bay gave up 51. Cleveland gave up 50. The Colts gave up 56. 10% of the snaps that were pass plays, adjusted sack rate, whatever. That's not a good description of it at all, but 10% adjusted sack rate for the Colts last year. So they have had some really piss poor protection years. There's no two ways about it. They've had a couple good running years. I still think, okay, so what? We're 23 in 2013, 2014, and now we're moving ahead. Okay, now let's look at this offensive line now and kind of look at what we feel maybe this Colts offensive line could be considerably better than. Okay, Kelly was injured last year. There's no Nelson. Costanza was kind of on his own with Vunovich next to him. Deshaun Bond started at center a large amount of the season. Mike Person started a bunch as well. And then you've got this revolving door between Haig and Denzel Good at guard and tackle, Clark even. I mean, right? A lot of the interior pressure. I mean, look, that Colts offensive line last year was legitimately one of the worst. That is on that. There's no two ways about it. Vunovich, I've never seen a guy pull out, go to take out a cornerback, and then just completely bypass him and just run past him and allow the running back to get lit up. I've never seen an offensive lineman do that. Never. I saw Vunovich do it, and more than once. So he was, to me, he was the most just terrible excuse for an offensive lineman on the Colts offense last year. I don't really know where to go other than that, but I can look. I mean, let's just keep this short and sweet. Nelson, a massive upgrade no matter where you put him. Kelly back is a massive upgrade. Mewhort is a massive upgrade from what they had last year. He was injured and he was done. He was gone. Austin Howard, that's probably a massive upgrade as well. So what do we think these guys are going to do? Are they going to be one of the, like we talked about with them, are they going to be one of those teams that get the running back to the line of scrimmage? I don't think that's it. I think they're going to offer more than that. I think that Nelson is known for his pulling ability. He's known for getting to the second and third level. He's known for basically running with the running back and just taking out people. Kelly, he's a very aware guy as well in the middle. I mean, Kelly didn't give up a sack, I don't believe, in his rookie year. I keep wanting to say freshman. But he played really well in his rookie year. Kelly did it. Mewhort, like I said, he was the best offensive lineman for the Colts for quite a while when he was healthy. And I think you could probably make the argument between he and Costanzo, but you've got those two guys there, and that was about it. Braden Smith, I still think he would be an upgrade at right guard over anything that they had last year. But then you've got Haig, Howard, Good, kind of looking for a spot. Who are these guys going to be? Who are these guys? They're going to be battling for right tackle, I think. And I think that maybe even right guard as far as backup or left guard. But you've also got Matt Slauson in there, who is probably not much of an upgrade, honestly. He's going to be a backup center, and he's going to be a backup left guard probably, maybe even, just guard in general. But the good thing that you see with Haig, we've gone quite a while, and we haven't had to worry about Anthony Costanzo. Good thing about Haig. Haig's going to make this roster. And I don't care if he ends up being the third guy in any way, shape, or form of some place along this line. He's going to make this roster because he can play both positions. And he's going to make this roster, and they're going to need him eventually. And I hope it's not for Costanzo, but if Haig is not on this team and Costanzo goes down, they're going to be really kicking themselves for it, because Haig is a guy who can fill in. He's not the greatest. I'm not trying to make a case for Haig being some amazing offensive lineman here, but what I am saying is that Haig is going to be a guy who can move out. He can kick out to left tackle if necessary. He's not normal. I mean, it's not normal for him out there. That's not his spot. He's not comfortable out there necessarily. But who else would you put out there? I mean, Burwell, he was okay. He came in and played a little bit last year. He was all right. He didn't play a bunch. I mean, but that's the only other guy you got. I'm not putting Good over there. I'm sure as hell not putting Clark over there. You guys saw him in the preseason last year at left tackle. Oh, my God. I mean, it was awful. And so we've got a couple options here. Haig's going to be a guy he's going to be the utility guy, left and right. Anywhere you need him, he's going to be there. Maybe Mewhort's an emergency center. Slauson, I think, is definitely the backup there. Fabiano is a guy who they'll probably weigh between him and Glowinski, Bond, and Vunovic for an interior backup spot. And I think that's going to be, I don't think it's going to be an exciting battle between those guys, but I think it's an important one for the team going forward. So let's answer the question. Is this the best offensive line that the Colts have had since 2012, or at least in the past, with Luck under center? I think it's kind of, on paper, it's unquestionably the best. There's just no way around it. That they're going to be, look, Costanzo, Nelson, Kelly, Mewhort, those guys are all good run blockers. We don't know much about Austin Howard right now, but those guys are all good run blockers. Smith, well, I believe Smith was drafted specifically for his run blocking. Okay, he's a solid protection guy. He's not great, solid, but I believe that's what Smith is there for, his athleticism to get out. We've talked about it. But I mean, like I said, on paper, yeah, this is the best offensive line the Colts have had with Andrew Luck as a quarterback. I don't know. 2013, 2014, those were good years. I mean, in some aspects, not good overall, of course, but good in some aspects. I mean, the team was 11-5. Andrew Luck wasn't hit near as much in those, but he was hit a lot still, but nothing like we've seen the past couple years. So, I mean, look, like I said, Costanzo, Nelson, Kelly, Mewhort, or Smith, whatever you want to say with that one. Austin Howard, Good, Haig, Clark, whoever ends up kicking it there at right tackle, we think it's going to be Howard. But don't be surprised. I mean, guys, if, Haig starts getting some pub in camp and Haig starts, getting talked about as one of those guys that the coaches love. We just love him because we can kick him in when guys are hurt at guard and he's going to play. We can kick him in when guys are hurt at tackle either side. He's going to play. Haig's going to make this roster. Haig's going to be an important guy for this team. He's definitely going to be a guy that they rely on. He's going to be a guy that just turns out to be the man, most definitely for this team. There's a lot, and I mean a lot, to be said for a utility guy along the offensive line who can virtually play any of those positions. If they're going to upgrade in the process as we get forward further along, whatever happens, happens. But right now, Haig could be one of the most pivotal guys that the Colts keep in training camp, I think. I mean, they've got their starters for the most part. There's a great battle there, I think, at right guard waiting to happen. I think that the right tackle's kind of sewed up, but I think there's a battle there. But I think Haig turns out to be, kind of that sixth man of the group. And I don't think it's close, to be quite honest with you. I don't think Haig I don't think Good can outplay Haig at either position. I know that Clark can't, but I think Clark might have the best up. Man, I really hope Clark gets it, though, too, because I think Clark's got the best upside at right tackle. I don't think he's got the left tackle chops, but I think he's got it at right. Quick feet, man. He really does have some nice feet. Quick feet, anyways. He's an athletic guy. He really is for a right tackle. It's weird to say, but maybe they would try to maybe kick him in at guard because he's athletic. I don't know, but he's not going to start at one of those positions. So, as we get going, I just don't think that we can question it anymore. I think this is, on paper, the best offensive line Andrew Luck's had to deal with. So what does that mean going forward? That means a lot for the running game. I think that means a lot for Luck coming back, getting comfortable. There is going to be some quicker passes in this, Frank Reich's offense. There's going to be a little bit of misdirection, which is pretty interesting. And we're going to start doing some film pieces on that pretty soon. Frank Reich, if he brings over some of the stuff that Peterson implemented there in Philly, the offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch. There really is some really interesting movement among the running backs, the tight ends. They're somewhat interchangeable to a point. And then, once the ball's snapped, a lot of things happen. So it's going to be interesting. I'm pretty interested for it. So I think the Colts are in pretty good shape, guys, with this offensive line. This is something I really wanted to look at and kind of discuss with you guys and figure it out, like I said, right here on the pod with you. So I think that the Colts are in pretty good shape with the offensive line, pending everybody stays healthy. I think that's one of the keys, most definitely. But as I said, with injuries always becoming an issue, Haig is going to be one of the most important guys that the Colts have in camp this year, I think. I don't think there's, really a good second place to that. There might be a guy that pops up that we don't know about right now, but Haig right now, he's that guy. So thank you guys for joining me. That's about all we got for you tonight. Just wanted to get on here again, say thank you guys for everything. Thank you for all of the ratings and reviews and whatnot. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called, Stitcher, all that good stuff. Tune in, anything, anywhere you get podcasts, we're there. Thank you guys for being constant, readers and interactions with both Twitter and on Stampede Blue. We appreciate it a bunch. And thank you guys for everything on my end as well. Thank you guys for helping out to grow the podcast. I appreciate it. And you guys are the best. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. So thank you guys all for hanging with me tonight. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Colts Cast.